the one person you didn't mention was my favorite person in the movie, and that was Anton Karas, the guy who made the entire music for the entire movie with a zither. One instrument, one guy. He played this obscure instrument, and he played the pants off of that instrument. And being that this takes place in post-World War II Vienna, that's the perfect instrument for that. It so helps to characterize the movie.
One of the coolest character introductions I've ever seen still. And I'm over here like, oh man, that's badass cinema right there.
Yeah.
That's cool. I get it.
There was a third man there. I'm not interested in whether a racketeer like Lime was killed by his friends or by an accident. The only important thing is that he's dead.
Hi, welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm Rudy Ruiz.
I'm Fred Satilli.
And today we're going to be reviewing the 1949 film noir directed by Carol Reed, The Third Man, starring Joseph Cotten and Orson Welles. Now, The Third Man follows Holly Martins, a novelist who travels to post-war Vienna to meet up with his friend, Harry Lime. Almost forgot the name for a second.
Yeah.
Only to find out that he is dead. And this leads him into a little investigation onto the mystery of his deceased friend. Now, this movie is pretty famous. I think nominated for 3 Oscars, I want to say. Won 2, I believe. And up until seeing this the other day, you recommended this. This was your pick.
This is a typical Fred recommendation, right?
But I had always thought that this was an Orson Welles directed movie. So the first thing that surprised me was that it is not him.
No.
It's Carol Reed. So that was a bit surprising. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. And it is apparently very highly regarded from everything I've seen. And this has been on my list of movies to watch for a long time.
It's a must watch.
Yeah, I'm glad, this was one that you chose for this week. And
I'm glad that you brought up right away the fact that he didn't direct it. He just acted in it. He didn't even have much acting part in it, did he?
Not a lot of screen time.
Minor character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have to say this. I'm leading with all the positives because I need to give this another watch, clearly. But it did not resonate with me that much, to be honest, for the most part. Yeah, I think it's possible. I've been pretty busy. Maybe I wasn't quite in the right headspace. So I will give it another viewing for sure. There's plenty of aspects I do like about it. But for me, it didn't hit as, one of the all-time greats. But yeah, I can't wait to hear your perspective on this. Sorry to shock you.
I am shocked. But one of the things I wanted to bring up, and the audience may or may not realize this, depending on how you edited the previous one, but this was in black and white.
Yes. Yeah.
And for those of you who don't realize the joke here or something, we watched a movie a few weeks ago that was in color, and I said, I really enjoy a movie like that in black and white. You're like, Fred, it was totally in color. Yeah. I'm like, I didn't see it in color, But this one, as I was watching it, I went like, that's in black and white. I'm not.
For sure, black and white.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I have to confirm that now for my reviews. But that was a great lead-in that you gave, and you gave all the story. But the one person you didn't mention was my favorite person in the movie, and that was Anton Karas, the guy who made the entire music for the entire movie with a zither. One instrument, one guy. He played this obscure instrument, and he played the pants off of that instrument.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the theme song, because the theme song was throughout.
Yeah.
But there was the effects too, or it was a bum 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 bum. And it's that one guy with that one instrument. And being that this takes place in post-World War II Vienna, that's the perfect instrument for that. It so helps to characterize the movie.
I feel like I've heard that theme many, many times before, even though I've never seen this movie. And I kept trying to look up, like, I know there's got to be other movies that have used it, or maybe it's commercials. I'm sure it's all over, but it was so familiar to me to where it almost made me feel like I had seen it before. And it sets a very interesting tone where, the movie has some dark, serious elements and subject matter, but it has this playful vibe because of what I think that piece for the opening credits is actually called the Harry Lime theme, if I'm not mistaken, but it gives it this really interesting,
and
playful.
All they showed was the zither board. Right, the beginning of the movie is just the zither board. And the strings moving as he's doing it, as those credits are going by.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't even put that together. Wow.
This movie really places you in a place and time that no other movie exists. The girl lives in a hotel that from the front It's totally intact. You go to the desk, you check in and everything, you go up to your room, but down the hall, the whole back of the building is blown away from bomb blast during World War II.
Right.
So everything in the city is like that. It's like devastated buildings and stuff that's just coming back to life. And one of the aspects that isn't even perceivable by today's standard is after the war, the city was governed by 4 countries. There was a Russian section, there was a English section, an American section, and for some reason a French section. I don't know why they were credited with anything, but they somehow were a victor, but everybody spoke German.
Right.
All the people, because it was Vienna.
That is one thing I really appreciate about this movie too, is you see in a lot of older, American films when they are out in these other countries or it's World War II or whatever, everyone just speaks English, right? Because it's an American movie.
Right.
But I love that in here, they're speaking the real languages and the real accents and everything. And I just appreciate stuff like that. Like even by today's standards, we don't see a lot of that. Just, all right, everyone
there
in
was
this
no
magical
subtitles.
World speaks English.
Yeah, there was no subtitles, And
Yeah.
You kind of had to get the idea from the context, like what he's saying and what he's doing. And it was interesting how these governments had to interact with each other.
Yeah.
The British government says, well, we've apprehended you. We have to turn you over to the Russians, because really you're a Czechoslovakian and they're going to repatriate you. And like there was all that after the war, like who you were and where you belonged and what your role was. Incomprehensible, right?
Yeah.
Here's a poor young girl who's just an actor. But unfortunately for her boyfriend is a big gangster in the black market, and everything in Vienna at that point is black market. You can get anything you want if you have enough money. And you saw that one Dr. Winkle, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Winkle.
Yeah.
Winkle. He had all that fantastic antiques and stuff in his house. He probably gathered those during the bombings, because his place was untouched, right? And he had all those antiques and stuff. So he was clearly a war profiteer. And so you laid it out good in the beginning. Here's an American who his friend sends him transportation money to get to Vienna and to get a job. And he needs a job. He's actually a cowboy novel writer. So he gets there, and the minute he gets there, he finds that his friend was killed in a traffic accident just the day before. Right. So now he's stuck. And he starts to ask questions, well, how did it happen? And who saw it and everything? And it doesn't add up. And he's like, wait a minute, what happened? Who else saw this? And he finds out that the guy's friend and his doctor and his business partner and everybody were all there. Even his driver killed him, right? His own driver was the guy driving the car that killed him. It was like, so everybody was in on this, but then once the story is pretty clear, and even the policeman comes, Calloway, and I love when he goes, all right, Callahan, it's Calloway, right?
Yeah.
The policeman says, look, this is open and shut. And he goes, and besides, this guy was a monster. He was a criminal. He's like, no, he's not a criminal. He's my friend. He's an ethical guy. It's like, you don't know your friend. Yeah. Another witness shows up, and he says, oh, no, 2 men didn't take him off the street. There was a third man, and nobody admits there's a third man. But this guy's a credible witness. So now he wants to find out about that. And he starts to become a thorn in everybody's side. He's interrogating people, and he finds out about the girlfriend. And he goes to her, and she says, oh, he was the kindest, sweetest, nice guy. He never did anything wrong. She was full of it. She knew he was doing something horrible. She knew he was some kind of black marketer, profiteer guy. It's one of my favorite moments in any movie when they show Orson Welles for the third time. Here is his friend. He's in the camera angles. I mean, it was that German Gothic.
They did a lot of the Dutch angles all throughout the movie. Yeah, the slanted camera.
And,
love it.
And everything, that's what you said, film noir. And it really was in black and white. That's where it's at, right?
Yeah.
And, the street, the wet street, like the street was always shiny, it was always a little rain on there. And he thinks that he sees his friend, and he starts to hunt him down, going down the dark streets at night, and you can duck into a million places because stuff is blown up and bombed, and there's these deep door cavities and everything. And he starts talking, and he's yelling, but it's at night, and a neighbor across the street turns on the light to yell out the window at him. When that light comes on, you see Orson Welles' white face on the black background. He looks like the man in the moon. Like you see his face and nothing but. It's like, in that moment, it's such a wham. It's like, there he is. So holy shit, that's you. That's you're alive. You're here. And then somehow Orson Welles is able to disappear. And it's amazing that they don't realize that he went down in the sewer below the city. That movie, it's interesting that it had sections, because once they go down in the sewer, it's a whole new movie.
Right.
It's a whole new environment. And what a great movie. And for a spoiler alert, did you ever see the movie of Mice and Men, or read the book for that matter?
I did read the book in school, and I saw the movie with I know there's a few different ones. I want to say I saw the one with Gary Sinise and John Malkovich.
Oh, okay.
I saw that one.
Yeah, there was another one. There was another one before that. But in the movie in Mice and Men, the guy who accidentally kills the girl just because he's clumsy.
Right.
They want to get him and hang him and kill him and shoot him, and the group wants to do a horrible thing. And his friend realizes that the humane thing for him to do is for him to kill his friend.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's the same way. Orson Welles runs for his life. And at the end, when he's really trapped, his friend goes, and you see Orson Welles go, he gives him the nod, like, go ahead, shoot me. Because they're gonna. They're gonna get their jollies doing it.
Right.
They're gonna have fun doing it. At least you're gonna respect me at some degree.
Yeah.
Now you said that this movie didn't hit hard for you, but did you love that scene when they were in the Ferris wheel and the camera was shooting up through the Ferris wheel?
I did. There's so much of the shots and all that I love. That whole Ferris wheel part, the big shadow on the wall walking up, and then it ends up being the guy at the balloon. And like you just mentioned, that first introduction of Harry Lime, when we see him, the dog at his feet.
Yeah.
And then he's just silhouetted, and there was
the cat like him.
Silhouetted there. And that part when the light comes on. One of the coolest character introductions I've ever seen. Still, this is me watching it yesterday.
Right.
Like in 1949, and I'm over here like, oh man, that's badass cinema right there.
Yeah.
That's cool. I get it. Like I get it. And yeah, cinematography. I mean, just all these locations and the interiors of the homes, and it's so beautiful and makes cinematography just seem easy when you're in these wonderful places, and there's so much texture and everything everywhere. And when they get into the whole sewer chase, that was very compelling and very well directed and edited. And I was on the edge of my seat, and I haven't seen this, so I don't know quite how it's going to play out, but when he's down there and he'll make one turn and they're coming down, he keeps like so narrowly escaping them like over and over, but it's always
sidestep, ducks into here, ducks into there.
Yeah, and it feels so like a maze, and you see that the cops are like splitting up and going down different areas, and you're just, all right, how's this all gonna play out? I was bummed out that he ends up getting shot at the end. I was hoping it was gonna be a trick and we would see him later like alive again, like he escaped.
Oh man, yeah.
But I let, and just all that cinematography
Rudy,
down there, incredible.
How much did you love seeing his fingers going up through the grate?
Probably my favorite shot besides the intro. Yes,
that part of me is free. That my fingertips made it. They're out. They're out of this hell.
Yes,
right. And he couldn't lift the grate. Trapped like a rat.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that was probably my favorite shot in the whole movie. Was that Yes, amazing. And I'm glad. So, it was nominated for, I think, Best Picture, Best Editing, Best Cinematography. It won, I think, for editing and cinematography. I don't think it got Best Picture. But yeah, cinematography, like camera, lighting, and editing and all that, a masterpiece. And I will watch it again. I think. Oh, yeah. I really think, and there is aspects of like the writing and the dialogue and stuff that I like too. And some of that mystery, I kind of like this story of, hey, I'm just trying to find out what happened to my friend, and
just
how
the
this
girl
whole thing,
alone.
Yeah.
Just the girl, the romance, the hot and cold romance, like the moment, like the up and down of that.
Yeah.
Where you're not sure if he's going to get the girl or not get the girl. And of course, that scene at the end.
That last shot too. Yeah. Where she's walking, like just the trees and the path.
It's like a painting.
Oh my God.
But she's walking.
Amazing.
You think it's a painting.
Yeah.
But and all those trees were trimmed, and it was just after the war, go figure.
And so I think Anna was her name, or Anne. So played by Alida Valli.
Right.
Who, I'm watching it and I'm like, she looks kind of familiar and she's very pretty. And I'm like, there's no way. Is this the woman from Suspiria? I don't know if you've seen Suspiria from like 1977 or whatever. Dario Argento. But yeah, I looked up her IMDb and I'm like, wow, that's her. That's Miss Tanner, the old like headmistress lady at the ballet school that just has very distinguished features. She was also in Eyes Without a Face.
You recognize that?
I did. Yeah. I was like, she looks just a little bit like her. I was like, I don't know that it is though. And yeah, that was her. She was in Eyes Without a Face from 1962, who I was just talking to someone about. So I didn't realize, because she's such a little bit character in Suspiria and in Inferno too, that I had no idea. I was like, oh, she was like a leading lady in 1949 in this movie. And
yeah, she was a young girl then.
Man, yeah.
Yeah, and she was beautiful, but a regular girl beautiful.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't like a Marilyn Monroe kind of beautiful.
Right.
She was a regular girl, but just really flawless, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really appreciated her acting.
Oh, yeah.
She had her moments when she dropped the coat. You know, she was in that little diner.
That's right, yeah.
little cafe thing, and she was going to escape on the train, and she realized something was wrong. She got off the train. She would have been out of Vienna. She's like, no, I'm not going to betray this guy. And then at the end, she didn't betray him again.
Yeah.
You know, she was like, I'm his girl, not yours, not yours. You hunted him down. You could have helped him escape.
Yeah.
You hunted him down, you know, and he was doing sort of the legally correct thing.
Right.
But wasn't the morally correct thing, was it? Now, remember, Orson Welles was a monster, right? He was contaminating the medicine for little children, and it, you know, it was a terrible black market thing. And his caprice of life, when they were up in the Ferris wheel, and he opened the door, and it was like, are you going to push me out, or am I going to push you out? Well, you know, I have a gun. I mean, you know, but we're not like that. We're friends. We closed the door and said, like, we're good, right? We're good. So Orson Welles at that point was like, I'm good if you are. Like, are you going to betray me? Implied contract took place.
Right. Yeah.
But Holly, he was like, nope, you're a bad guy. And he didn't want his friend to be a bad guy. And that was that betrayal. So it was, I came here to be with you and work with you because I love the friend that I know who's a good guy.
Yeah.
And the fact that you are not a good guy. And he was so capricious. He says, look at those people. They're just dots. If they just disappeared, who would care? They're just dots, right? If you could get $20,000 for every one of those dots that just disappeared, how many would you have disappear?
Right.
And this is once again, this is a real moral message. You know, I see these generals in these war movies are like, well, we're going to hit this beach. We're going to have 10,000 casualties. My first thing would be like, well, let's not do that. Why would you do that? You're going to have 10,000 people are going to be mowed down. Sounds like a bad plan to me. I couldn't do a plan that I wouldn't think that everybody would be okay. Like if we're going to get in there, you know, we're going to do this thing and it's going to be, you know, maybe like, I don't know where the line is. Like, well, a couple of guys that didn't make it or whatever. But just to be capricious with 10,000 deaths, holy mackerel.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, you know, when they were in the Ferris wheel. It's like, look at those. Those people mean nothing. I mean, I've looked out of skyscrapers in Manhattan down and said, like, does anybody care if everybody on that street just disappeared? You know, and we saw it in the 9/11 thing, right? When the buildings were killed, when the buildings were crashed, a lot of people died and were injured and everything, and it really didn't change anything. It was forgotten in a few days. We have the never forget. No, that's forgotten. That's everybody's moved on. I'm sure there are a few loved ones that it was truly traumatic for them, and they're still, you know, have some amount of grief or memory or something. But it's amazing how careless humans are with other humans' lives,
right? And
how capricious they would be. Well, if they die, they die. You know, well, that's really bad. That's your, you know, if that's you, well, the cowboy novel writer, he's not your friend anymore, right? And he has to go to the police and say, hey, look. This guy, he's not even repentant. If he had been repentant, it would have been different. If he had said, look, I did this horrible thing, but now that you're here, we're never going to do it again. We're going to go the straight and narrow. I'm going to take care of it. He didn't even care about the girl. He was like, well, you know, she'll be okay.
Right, yeah.
He's like, because by now, Holly was in love with her, you know, in his mild way, in his respectful way.
Yeah.
He was like, no, she's got to come out of this okay. I've been that way in my own life with people. It's like, well, that guy or that girl's got to come out of this okay, regardless of what we do, right? They're an innocent victim of this or what. And she wasn't that innocent, but still, She was a young girl, and she didn't start the war.
Right.
So he was like, well, she's got to come out of it. And he was like, you know, she's young. She'll get over it, whatever. And he hated him for that.
Yeah.
So he tried to buy her escape by turning in his friend. That was the deal with the devil that he made, right? And the police were only too happy to do it. They didn't want to persecute the girl. They were like, oh, no, if we can get the guy, you can have the girl.
Right.
You know, and he was like, well, I'm doing the right thing. But then she wasn't having it.
Yeah.
And he was like, God damn it. You know what I mean? Like, holy mackerel.
He's an informant. The police are waiting for you.
Yeah. And she called, you know, run, you know, and boy, did he run. And it was great because you saw him run through the bombed out rubble.
Yeah.
So they're in a completely functional restaurant, but just out the back door was like a hill of debris, you know. And then the other thing that killed me was everybody ran, like the people running in the sewer and stuff. Didn't anybody not want to run in that water? Like everybody was so quick.
Very gung-ho for it.
And it was interesting that the more time that he was down there, more and more police were coming. So they were covering every exit little by little. The man trap, you know, the dragnet was closing in on him, right? And boy, did he run. Did he run. And some of those scenes where they heard the footsteps and then they turned on the light and they just saw him just tuck out of view.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, and the fact that he shot the nice policeman, you know.
That's right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, amazing locations, amazing. I mean, I you know, like I said, I definitely need to give it another watch with a very clear head. Hopefully Vista or
it wasn't
Beverly
drinks in a movie that night, was it?
No.
Okay.
That may have helped. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it was probably, I'm sure a lot of it had to do with, I was trying to watch it in the evening, but my internet was being slow. So I came here early and watched it at about 7 a.m. before.
Sort of had to hustle through.
Yeah. So it was a little bit of that, but I mean, clearly like in talking about it, I there's a lot of moments I'm passionate about and really love. I mean, I'm probably going to pick up the Blu-ray, the Criterion Blu-ray now that it's on sale. So definitely going to give it another watch. I mean,
yeah, because there was even that funny scene where the car was waiting. He went in the hotel and he said, I need to do this. I need to do that. And he said, oh, there's a car waiting. And it was because he had to give the lecture that evening in front of the Novel Society people that wanted the cultural. They had I'm not explaining this well. The guy who decided, once he was stuck in Vienna with no money, a guy realized that he was a famous writer. And he said, I'll pay for your hotel and everything if you stay here a couple nights and you speak to my group of rich people who'd like to hear from an American novelist. And he agreed to do that, but he had no intention of doing that.
Yeah.
And when that night came, there was a driver that came and got him and drove him through the streets like Mario Andretti.
Right.
And he pulled up at the building and he thought he was doing this investigation work. And he went in and it was all people dressed in tuxedos and dresses. He had to give a lecture. He didn't know what to say. That was a funny scene.
Yeah.
I
do like that actor too, Joseph Cotton. I got to see, because the only other movie I remember him from is Citizen Kane, but I can't think of any other films I've seen him in. And Orson Welles, he's just so cool. Just his voice, there's something about him, just his whole vibe. Maybe just the way the characters
he's just got a way of raising his eyebrows. He's kind of like John Belushi that way, where he just like raises his eyebrows and you fall in love with him.
But Joseph
Cotton, he's a real man, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like that guy's 100% man.
Yeah.
He's not, he was never a boy.
Right.
He's, just real like that. He's like somebody's dad.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, that's what fathers looked like. Some of them anyways, and he didn't take any crap from anybody. I mean, he was brave.
Yeah, definitely.
He was brave. And even when the guy punched him, that was such a good, quick, clean shot, right? He said something and the big British guy, boom, and he went down.
Yeah.
And then he helped him up immediately. Oh, are you all right? Can you get up? Yeah. Like,
yeah, we're good now. Just have to get it out.
Right. Like you're a little calm. You're a little more calm.
Yeah.
I had that as a kid. Like I wasn't listening to my father. He'd whack me and I go, well, you have my undivided attention now.
Right.
What exactly do you want? I'm trying to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life was more honest then. And it was interesting how brave he was and how he confronted the police. Where are you going? What are you doing? What do you think you're doing?
Right.
You're not going to get away with this. And the police is like, I'm the police.
Yeah.
He's like, that doesn't scare me.
I remember a bit of them. He also has to deal with everyone just kind of talking smack on his like writing Western pulp novels.
Right,
and this isn't,
right.
you know, you're not a cowboy kind of thing here.
But the one guy with the big guy was his fan.
Yeah.
You know, are you really him? Yeah, I just read your book.
Yeah.
You know, how would that be possible?
Right.
A British soldier in just after World War II had read his cowboy novels, and it was so funny. Anyway, once again, I'm stuck with that same dilemma. The movie's obviously a 10. It's iconic. It's you have to. I mean, holy mackerel. You know, one of the things that makes these old movies great is they didn't have stuff to lean on that we have now. All the editing techniques and stuff, you know, the digital stuff that we have, and the ability to just make the magic happen. They did this stuff so organically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd say that we owe all our techniques and everything to films like this, you know, for sure. Like, yeah, no visual effects and everything. Just having the actual locations, you know, and that is something we miss now. It's a green screen and we're just going to key in this background. It's like, no, you're in you're there. Right. You're in Vienna. It's 1949. You're living it. You're on the real.
Yeah, those dishes everything. You're eating off of, they ate off of them during the war.
Yeah, this is, you're living it. And yeah, that stuff to me is worth its weight in gold. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, there's a reason movies like this and, you know, Citizen Kane among film people is still a very studied movie for its, you know, what it achieves technically and all that. But yeah, I mean, right now as it stands today, I'm going to give this one a 6 as well. Obviously subject to change. And even just in talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I will for sure watch it again and give it a much more fair shot. I'm hoping that New Beverly or Vista or someone will screen it soon because I would love to see this in a theater. Right. I need to see a film print of this in a theater, and sooner or later it's going to happen out here, which I've read. I don't know if this is true, but supposedly there's a theater, I think in Vienna, that always plays this movie. I don't know that like ever since it came out, it just on the rotation at all times.
Once a year or something.
But from what I hear, like daily, like it just, there's one screen that it's like, supposedly that's what I've read. I don't know if it's a fact, but I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, right now as it stands today, I'll give it a 6, but definitely a recommend for anyone who hasn't seen it. You know, I'll definitely watch it again.
And any real movie fan. I mean, you have to have this in your inventory. You can't say you haven't. I mean, it's like saying you haven't seen Rocky.
Right. Yeah.
You just have to.
And I think I feel like I've been in the minority for having not seen this movie yet because I've heard about it from a lot of friends.
Well, welcome home.
Yeah. I made it. We did it. Here we are.
Okay, well, it was my pleasure, and I hope all of you get a chance to see it. If you haven't, and even if you had, see it again. It's one of those movies that the nuances, every little thing, just the landlady at the apartment was, you know, what a character, right?
Yeah,
big blanket wrapped around her, screaming at the cops. It's, you know, the indigenous people can always scream at the cops,
right?
You know,
yeah,
and they portrayed that real well. But I'm Fred Satilli, my partner Rudy here, Rudy Ruiz, and we appreciate your attention, and we'll see you in the next review.
Cheers.